handful of movies that come to mind when I think of high-octane adrenaline rush films. One of them being Crank, of course, Crank 2 High Voltage. The Fast and the Furious is obviously a pretty good example, and then of course there's this, Bullet Train. Ladybug is an unlucky assassin, determined to do his job peacefully after one too many gigs gone off the rails. Fate, however, may have other plans, as Ladybug's latest mission puts him on a collision course with lethal adversaries from around the globe, all with connected yet conflicting objectives on the world's fastest train. I don't even know where to start with this. I can tell you that if it weren't for other critics, I probably would have never watched it in the first place. It didn't cross my path. Like, I never saw marketing for it. I never saw any trailers for it. I don't know how I was as lucky or as unlucky as I was with that, but I didn't know about it until other people started talking about it. So for me, this is more word of mouth than anything. And usually when people start talking about movies, I try my best not to listen so hard at what they're saying because I don't want to get the entire experience ruined for me. But when it came down to other people talking about this film, a lot of them just said that it's a thrill ride. It's action-packed, there's a lot going on, there's a lot to unpack, and that's all true, absolutely. This is definitely kind of a ensemble cast type of film, not unlike Knives Out, not unlike Fast and the Furious, like I mentioned before. And just like Knives Out, and just like the Fast and the Furious, this is an example of an ensemble cast where the characters actually fit the casting. I often have a gripe with ensemble casts feeling like they just cast these people because they're Hollywood stars and not because they fit these roles. They fit these roles. The biggest one's probably gonna be Brad Pitt playing this character Ladybug, and everybody has these code names because they're all assassins. And Brad Pitt's probably the character that I like the most, not because it's the main character, because of his affinity to not like guns. Being an assassin, not liking guns. I thought that was hilarious, and basically his entire journey of wanting to be this peaceful person, always quoting people like Gandhi or other similar personalities and stuff like that. Like, he's an interesting guy. Like, he knows how to fight, he knows how to survive, he knows how to get the job done, but he's also strangely likable at the same time. And he's not the only one. Every other assassin in the film is incredibly and weirdly memorable and fun. You got Lemon and Tangerine, and they're bickering back and forth about their names. They have a lot of great on-screen chemistry together. You have Joey King, who plays this character named Prince, and the joke there is that, her parents wanted a son. And she's interesting because she can play the whiny, scared young girl very, very well, and there's a gag about that over and over again in the film that I thought was hilarious. The Japanese assassins, I don't want to butcher their names, so I won't, but they too were pretty memorable. I think that it's shot well. I think that the set design's really, really good because the bullet train, of course, is a character in and of itself, which they didn't need to do because they already had a lot of great characters as is. I'm reminded of Snowpiercer, another great action film on a train, but I do have a problem with this film, and that is the story. I understand that it's kind of like Crash in that all these stories are connected, and by the end of the film, they're all going to converge and you're going to understand it a little bit better. But I don't think that the flow of the film, the pacing of the film, was always very good. There's something about the foundation of the film being introduced to the audience that I was confused with. Something about either the how or the why these things were happening got a little bit lost on me, especially when it came down to the briefcase, which of course was kind of a MacGuffin, and everybody had a different goal. Everybody had a different end goal that wasn't the same, that didn't converge. And I don't know, there was just something about the storytelling that confused me. I mean, yes, throughout the film, when it gave you some answers, I felt a little less confused. I understood it a little bit more. Not everything from the beginning, like the foundation, like I told you about, made sense to me. And so at the end of the day, I still felt like, what's going on? It's just because there's too many characters. There's too many characters, too many storylines, there's too many things going on all at once that you're supposed to be sitting there juggling, and it's not always the easiest thing to do. But as weird as this sounds, at the most confusing part of the film, I was still completely engaged with the film. I may not have known what the crap was going on, but I was all in. I was having a blast, I was having fun, I didn't really care because it was made well enough that I could, forgive the parts of the film that weren't working for me. There's just so many moving parts, and I don't know if that always works for the film in the best possible light. If I made it, I probably would have made it a little bit differently. I would have made it a little bit more clear. But in no way, shape, or form will I say that the film is boring or anything that you can be easily distracted from. In fact, I watched this right before I was supposed to go to work, and by a certain point, I was just kind of crossing my fingers that the credits would come before I had to leave for work and make it on time, because I felt like there's no way I'm gonna pause it and come back to it for like 2 minutes. It's not gonna happen. I'm gonna watch those last 2 minutes. If I'm late, I'm late, and I wasn't late. I actually got there on time, thankfully, but just by a hair. And that kind of speaks to how engaging the film is as a whole, how fun it is, how much of a good time you have while watching, and a big part of that really does have to do with the performances and these characters, because in a lot of ways, this movie is all character. All character, it's all dialogue. The film is rich with the dialogue. It thinks it's a Tarantino film. There's a lot of unique approaches that it takes when it comes down to lighting and color. The action is very, very well done, especially when you come to think about how they did it, because when you think about it, a train car is very small, which means that the cameraman has very little room to work with. And so a lot of action films have action way up close so that you don't really see what's going on. That's not true here. You do see what's going on, you see everything, and it's incredibly well shot. Bottom line, it's not a perfect film, but it certainly is fun. Let's take a look at what I scored Bullet Train, which I rated an A- letter grade, final overall score of 89%, 89 out of 100 possible stars. You can see from my unbiased score and my biased score that I guess I liked it a little bit more than how it was technically made, but both scores are pretty darn high. My bias score is 94% because, honestly, it's an extremely exciting, tantalizing film, but my bias score of 84% isn't higher because of that problem that I had with the writing being sometimes confusing and sometimes over-convoluted. That sometimes can make or break a film. And 84% is not a bad score for something that I do consider to be kind of messy. But what about you guys though? Did you see Bullet Train? What are your thoughts about it? Let me know in the comment section down below. And as for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell to be notified when I come out with my next review. And until then, peace out.